stop swallowing that blue pill of corporate manipulation and remove the blindfold to a world not fabricated and mind controlled by the media.
Enter a world of the twisted and deformed.
Step into the light. Discover the truth. It's time for a reality check.
Reality check. Reality check. Reality check. This isn't something you need to be afraid of.
Now, two of the most controversial views of the paranormal, as well as conspiracies, you'll ever hear. The hosts of Reality Check, Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella.
All right, everybody, welcome to week 4 of Reality Check.
Week 4 already.
All right, I'm Jessica Johns, and I'm sitting here with my co-host Joey Mirabella. I'm actually glad we made it here today because we got lost for like the 3rd week in a row.
Every single time we come here, we make a wrong turn somewhere, forget to get on the proper freeway exit. So,
tonight we're going to be discussing a topic that we've been waiting to talk about for the last 3 weeks. We're going to be discussing Scientology and Leah Remini's book Troublemaker.
Yes, Scientology, something that most people have pretty much heard of by this point. I'm sure it's the most controversial religion at the moment, and you've heard a lot of things about it. And tonight we're going to be clarifying a lot of those topics, a lot of the underlying beliefs that this church carries, a lot of the twisted things it does, and we are just going to dive right in, starting from the website, directly from the Scientology website. I just want to explain to everybody what they believe and what everybody who joins is told, and this is basically the general outlook that people are made to believe and pretty much worship upon going in. So it's developed by L. Ron Hubbard. He was the original creator of this. He was actually a science fiction writer back in the, 60s, right? Right, 60s, 50s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That was it. It was a while back when he started this. And Scientology is basically a religion that offers a precise path leading to a complete and certain understanding of one's true spiritual nature and one's relationship to self, family groups, mankind, all life forms, the material universe, the spiritual universe, and the supreme being. Scientology addresses the spirit, not the body or the mind, and believes that man is far more than a product of his environment or his genes. Scientology comprises a body of knowledge which extends from certain fundamental truths. Prime among these are that man is an immortal spiritual being, that his experience extends well beyond a single lifetime, and that his capabilities are unlimited, even if not presently realized. Scientology further holds man to be basically good, and that his spiritual salvation depends upon himself, his fellows, and his attainment of brotherhood with the universe. Scientology is not a dogmatic religion in which one is asked to accept anything on faith alone. On the contrary, one discovers for oneself that the principles of Scientology are true by applying its principles and observing or experiencing the results. And the ultimate goal of Scientology is true spiritual enlightenment and freedom for all. That is what is directly taken from the Scientology website. That is what they tell everybody going in when you walk into one of the buildings. This is what they'll tell you.
It sounds good.
It
sounds amazing. Except that, let's talk about how it first started.
Yeah, we're going to go into its roots, which are
black magic.
Yes, reality check right here for everybody.
Check.
This is the roots of Scientology.
The deepest and darkest of the Scientology world is going to come out right now.
Yes, I'm sure they'll be very, very unhappy that we're talking about this. Go ahead, Jess.
All right. L. Ron Hubbard, before, the whole Scientology thing happened, in 1945, he moved in with a man named Jack Parsons, and he was an occultist and follower of the English ceremonial magician Aleister Crowley. Parsons and Hubbard collaborated on the Babylon Working, a sex magic ritual intended to summon an incarnation of Babylon, the supreme Thelemite goddess. I mean, he just was all about the black magic and the dark arts, and his son, actually, L. Ron Hubbard Jr., aka Ronald Edward DeWolf, went in an interview with Penthouse Magazine, of all magazines, but Penthouse Magazine, and he said that he was born prematurely, and his father actually built a makeshift incubator with a shoebox, later a cupboard drawer, and used blankets as an electric light bulb to keep him warm. So if anybody wants to know why Tom Cruise went all crazy on Brooke Shields about using psychiatric drugs to deal with her postpartum depression. That's where that comes from. But he helped his father in the early days of Scientology, but later he rejected his father and Scientology and then ended up changing his name. But in the mid 1980s, he gave sworn statements and interviews detailing his father's history, and he explained that his father was deeply involved in the occult and black magic, and he claimed that black magic was the inner core of Scientology, and that his father didn't worship Satan. He just thought he was Satan.
He actually believed that he was Satan in its raw form. This is the creator of Scientology. This is what people are believing in, but don't realize that they're believing it. And one of the things that we learned, not just from our research and through the book, through Leah Remini's book, is that when you're part of this, when you're in Scientology and you're full head in, you're not allowed to do any research that has nothing to do with Scientology. You can't be Googling Scientology and reading what other people think about it, because they will get at you for that immediately. And that is what keeps people from actually finding out what anybody else who's outside of it probably knows about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
well, check this out. So like in 1949, Hubbard went to a magazine editor and promised that his upcoming Dianetics will give men the power to, quote, rape women without them knowing it, communicate suicide messages to your enemies as they sleep, and evolve the best way of protecting or destroying communism. And that he also admitted that he hadn't decided whether or not to destroy the Catholic Church or merely just to start a new one.
And as we know, what he tried to do is start his own.
Right.
And that's what we're going to be getting further into. So Aleister Crowley, now he was known for just dark black magic, right? Some of you may have heard Crowley. If anybody's ever heard that Ozzy Osbourne song, Mr. Crowley, which I'm sure a lot of people have, that's actually about that same guy. And it's all about black magic, dark magic.
Right.
So we have someone worshiping the devil who actually we just found out from our production manager here that he apparently, L. Ron Hubbard had lost had a bet back in the day saying that he could start his own religion and get people to believe in it. And that was where he decided to come up with this whole idea for Scientology. So it actually had to do with a bet that he didn't want to lose. So it's kind of interesting. This doesn't stem from anything holy or anything that is supposed to be realistically bettering your future or making you a better person. It sounds amazing. It sounds really appealing, which is what draws people in. And a lot of people believe that when you're joining this, that there's a lot of connection to Hollywood and to the film and television industry, and that also draws actors and actresses that are aspiring to become famous to the religion as well.
Whoa. Hey.
If
you donate $1 million, you can meet Tom Cruise.
Yes.
So
for all of us that have $1 million ready to donate, I know that's all of us here, jump right into that.
Yeah.
And that's what they're saying. But the truth is they're actually not nearly as connected to Hollywood as everybody thinks. I mean, you have Tom Cruise. We know he's well known for that. You have John Travolta, Kirstie Alley,
Will Smith.
Was Will Smith is
he just doesn't tell people.
Okay. Some well-known names that are part of it, but realistically it doesn't mean that you're going to be just instantly jumping in, becoming a celebrity, becoming famous. It's not the way it works. So why don't we talk a little bit about Leah Remini's book now?
All right.
Jump into that.
That was, okay, first of all, loved it. Great book.
If any of you know who Leah Remini is, you know her mostly probably from King of Queens. She was Carrie. She was Doug's wife on King of Queens, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. Hilarious. She is an awesome actress, and you'd never have known, unless you're looking into it, that she was a Scientologist for 30 years, from before she was even famous. Originally from Brooklyn, New York.
She was like 12 or 13 years old. Her mom,
somewhere around there,
mom actually got her into it, and I think that was the cause of her parents' divorce.
What was the guy that her mom was dating? Remember that? Yeah.
Well, no, she was married, and then they got divorced because she just kind of threw herself into Scientology, and he was like, wouldn't be a part of it because to him, like, that was a cult. Right. So then she, started dating this other dude for many years. But after a while, Leah Remini finally, and her sister Nicole finally get into Scientology, and they spend their entire lives there.
Right.
Like every day, before and after school.
Hours
and hours after, and then they finally, like, they transferred down to the Sea Org in Clearwater, which I don't know if you've ever seen it. I know, like, I'm sure you guys have seen it on TV or whatever, but I actually vacationed in Florida in Clearwater and drove by it, and it is just a massive, massive building, and they do wear uniforms.
And they have these massive buildings, and they continue to build them everywhere, and they look very appealing, and it makes people believe, oh, this is a powerful religion. They have tons of money behind them. Well, there's a reason that they have so much money behind them, and it's the way that they elicit the money from the parishioners, the people that are following, that believe in it. And we'll also be getting straight into that. So what do you want to go into? The auditing, Jess? Should we start with that?
The auditing? Well...
And how they...
Okay, yeah. Well, all right. Well, the International Association of Scientists are those people that are the ones that hound you down in the parking lot asking for more money and would come up with reasons, to...
Especially because she was because Leah Remini was a celebrity.
The more money, the more money you spend, the higher up the bridge
you get.
So we'll talk about different levels of the bridge. But we're going to discuss like what the auditing is. And in the auditing, you're holding like these two, like... aluminum or metal
these cans, right? Aluminum
things.
Cans.
Yeah,
they use an e-meter, it's called, which is short for electropsychometer. So basically, they use this device that they claim measures thought and emotion, in which they'll ask you specific questions. They use the readings on the e-meter. It's based on these needle points. I think there's like, what is it? There's a certain number of them. 28 needle characteristics that they use in auditing. And then it directs them to discuss points of emotional discomfort and upset until they're relieved. So people will sit there and they'll take these e-meter readings, the people that are trying to become, better Scientologists. And if there's certain topics they're talking about that make them uncomfortable, the needle will boop, spike, and they'll see it. And then that has the person asking the questions, the practitioner, will then dive further into that topic until eventually the needle thins out and they feel calm about it. Now, it sounds to me like just a regular polygraph test that they call an e-meter.
Right.
It measures if you're nervous about something or something makes you uncomfortable, but your pulse is going to reflect that.
Right. And if you're hiding that and they catch you, like if you're hiding something, it'll show up and they'll try to get it out of you, and you can deny that you were having these thoughts, and they'll know. And if you do that, that is considered a crime against Scientology. Yeah, and it's considered a critical thought and a crime against Scientology.
On another note, the way they this is what Scientology wants you ultimately to do. They don't want you to exist outside of Scientology. When you join this is a all in or all out type of religion. They don't want you to go to outside schooling, so no regular formal education. So that's why Leah talks about in her book that she dropped out of school and her mother was okay with it because they believed that the only education they needed was Scientology. So people that are born into this religion through their families, literally, most of them don't go to any regular schooling. They spend so many hours a day. I think 12 hours a day.
They even work for it too.
And working.
But it's like slave labor, because she said that her and her sister lived in these old roach-infested, decrepit motel rooms, and they were forced to clean hotel rooms of visiting Scientologists to the Flag, which is the Sea Org, in Clearwater.
After flagships, because they used to be on actual ships in the ocean when they started this.
So what they did was they cleaned these hotel rooms for paying guests, because since they were working there, they lived there for free, so they gave them the crappiest of rooms. But Leah and her sister were forced to clean hotel rooms for the paying guests, and they were $15 a week.
A week is what this was. I mean, this was in the 70s or 80s.
Yeah,
but still, I mean, $15
a week was nothing.
Yeah, that's just brutal. So they feel like there is, but that's what they have to do. That they have to do this. Doing this will better them. It's not about the money, and it's about just learning a Scientology. And one of the things that she continues to say is Scientologists are continuously taught how to learn Scientology better, which is interesting. So you're learning how to learn Scientology, so you get better and better at practicing Scientology. But another one of the things that she talks about is that, outside in the real world, she never really had any gains at all from everything that she learned, and anything that she had taken from what she was doing had no correlation with what she was doing when she wasn't actually at the church.
Well, that's why
All
when
her friends,
it was
all
so
her
hard
friends.
for her after everything that she went through. Like after everything that she went through, it's still it was still hard for her to leave the church because it was all she knew.
Yeah, absolutely. But what she believed though, and this is because she really wanted to just become as good as she could be, and this is one of the things they tell everybody, is that the only way to do things right for yourself and for the universe is to stay connected to the church no matter what. Everyone in the church is on a mission to clear the planet, to eradicate insanity, war, and crime across the whole world, and create a peaceful earth by helping all beings free themselves with Scientology. And they're told they're the only ones doing anything good about the planet. They're the only ones. No one else is doing anything good, and they firmly believe this. And then they're told that anybody who doubts the religion or outsiders, that aren't part of Scientology, just don't know, because we haven't been enlightened yet because we're not part of it. And that's how they keep people in it believing that what they're doing is actually for a good cause.
When he says clear the planet, this is what he means. Okay, the word clear in Scientology means it's the name of the state achieved through auditing and describes a being who no longer has his own reactive mind.
Right.
So,
which takes decades to even get to that point through their practices and methods, and thousands of dollars.
One of her first training sessions in Scientology was she had to like sit in front of somebody. There was two people. You sat face to face and you said some like horrible things to each other, and the first person to react fails.
Which is bizarre.
Yeah.
So we could just sit here and insult each other just till one of us reacts.
Right. And they're basically teaching you to like not have a reaction at all, and just
they want you to be totally
like
emotionless
a robot kind of thing.
They want you to be entirely selfish, rather, because this is all about bettering yourself. It has nothing to do with your family, with your friends. In fact, when you get into this, they see everybody as equals, right? Mm-hmm. You say children and adults are
the same. So they treat children just like they treat adults and talk to them just like adults.
Yeah. So they'll have children supervising adults where, in certain activities that they're doing, or in some of the labor that they were doing. Well, including watching over where they left the kids, because Leah's younger sister, was it at the time?
Yes.
Was left in the nursery.
Right.
That wasn't ventilated.
Her baby sister. And we'll talk a little bit too, like, because she did bring up Katie Holmes, Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes' wedding, and what Katie Holmes did with baby Suri. And
yeah, that's right.
Things like that. Like they were,
they were standing around her.
She's on the floor crying. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Tom Cruise.
But one of the weird things was when they dropped the babies off at 7 a.m. and then they wouldn't pick them up till 10 p.m. So they leave their newborn kids
in a roach-infested nursery
that had hardly any ventilation. So it reeked of diapers and it was dirty and disgusting. Babies are crying. But the nursery, get this, the nursery was being overlooked by a child, by a teenager, or
like
young.
a 10-year-old, you know.
But because they're seen as equals, that's okay.
Right.
So I don't know how many of you out there would trust a 9 or 10-year-old that you don't know to watch over your child, but that's the kind of stuff that they do in this religion. They don't care. They teach you to let go of your bonds to your family, to your friends. They teach you to separate yourselves emotionally and to only focus on yourself. And which it's crazy because any other organized religion usually teaches you to love everybody else. And this one is entirely doing the opposite thing. Right.
Well, if anybody interrupts your learning or makes, or interrupts you trying to better yourself, you would write a knowledge report on them. Reports. You would basically tattletale.
Systematic tattletaling.
Basically.
Is what she called.
Yep.
So you're encouraged to tattle on everybody, on your friends. It could be your mother, your father. It doesn't matter who it is.
She said she tattled on her husband a lot.
Yeah. And the reason why is if you were caught doing something wrong, number one, you get audited for however many hours it takes till you admit what you did was wrong. And then they punish you by making you pay hundreds of dollars to retake courses, to reprogram your mind, they call it.
Right.
And that's what they continue to do. And that's why it just continues to drain you financially. So you do something wrong, you're caught, we make you pay for it. We make you pay for it. You do this, you're not caught, well, someone else rats you out, we make you pay for it. If you're caught for it, or you're not caught for it rather, and someone doesn't rat you out, but then you're both caught for it, that person's guilty by association. You both are caught. You both have to pay excruciating amounts of money. and this is what they do, and they just destroy people's lives. They don't even realize.
Well, everything that we were just talking about happens, or it happens everywhere, but but it happened a lot at Sea Org. And the thing about Sea Org is when you join Sea Org, you have to sign a 1 billion-year contract. Now,
she's not even joking.
I'm not kidding. And you said in the very beginning that they describe like more than one life.
Yeah.
So, okay, the 1 billion-year contract basically says when you die, whoever you come back as has to serve at Sea Org or has to serve in Scientology
continuously, and
like,
you're reincarnated constantly.
Yes.
So it's almost like you sell your soul, is what they're saying, which is interesting because he did consider himself Satan, right? And Satan does what? He takes your soul, and you're eternally in his debt. That's the way he looks at this.
Well, he did describe the Book of Revelations and its prophecy, and a time when the Antichrist will reign, and the Antichrist represents the forces of Lucifer. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, he's all about
the darkness.
Yep.
All about the darkness, and as we discuss, and some of the information we've already given you can kind of show you why this isn't really doing anything good for people. I mean, how many families are drained financially, and they will split apart entirely, and they cut each other off. I mean, once you're out, they cut people off. They call people that are against the church or speak out against the church suppressive persons, or SPs as they call them.
And if you have any kind of bad thought about Scientology, it's known as a critical thought.
That's right. And critical thinking is also a crime. You are not allowed to critically think. They don't want you capable of critical thinking. Thinking outside the box is a crime in Scientology. And then what are you doing? You're back into auditing, having to pay a fortune to retake courses, and it's just a vicious cycle they keep you in.
Well, I mean, God forbid you tell on Tom Cruise.
Oh.
The
god, he's worshipped like a god, Mr. Goofball Cruise there.
Oh man, David Miscavige and the whole religion, if you want to call it that, or cult, will come raining down on you like it did to Leah Remini.
Definitely more of a cult than a religion.
Like Charles Manson.
Yeah.
Yeah, only, I mean, people didn't kill people, except for, we all, maybe Shelley Miscavige, we're trying to figure out where she's at.
And we'll get more into that in the second half of our show. We're also going to be playing a commercial from the Super Bowl about Scientology when we return.
On Reality Check.
Once again, it's time to cross that line of deception and bring you a reality check.
They're serious. They mean what they're saying.
With your mesmerizing hosts, Jessica Johns and Joey Mirabella.
All right. Welcome back to Reality Check. Again, I'm Joey Mirabella with my lovely co-host Jessica Johns here. Before we get back into our discussion, what we want to do is we have a little clip here. It's a commercial that was aired at the actual big game, as they call it, because we can't say the other word. That's totally illegal now. This was played during the big game to gain interest and more popularity for Scientology.
Hey, that's where it cost them $5 million.
To what?
To air that commercial.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I wonder where they get all that money from.
I wonder. Tom Cruise.
Maybe
Tom Cruise and John Travolta split it.
I don't know. It could have been. Okay. They had a little powwow. All right. Let's play that. Let's play that clip and we'll come right back.
We live in an age of technological wonder. At the touch of a button, an infinite source of answers to any question we might ask. Except for one. The one we thirst for. The question that lies at the intersection of technology and spirituality. Who am I?
All right, so for those of you who caught that, who am I? I mean, everyone's trying to pretty much figure that out. I don't quite think Scientology is the way to figure that out.
And I think it's really interesting is, I know they were talking about like technology or whatever, but like the very first scene is outer space.
Yeah. Of course. Now, where's that coming from?
I don't know.
Their special alien origins.
Yep.
That they discuss.
Warlord Xenu.
Mm-hmm. So, Jess, why don't you tell us a little bit about Xenu that they deny, but this is if you
it's in Ron Hubbard's Dianetics.
Yeah, and it's also in the hilarious South Park episode about Scientology,
right?
Which is not inaccurate in how they describe it. Believe it or not. Just tell us about who Xenu is.
According to L. Ron Hubbard, Xenu was the dictator of the Galactic Confederacy, so a warlord, who 75 million years ago brought billions of his people to Earth in a DC-8-like, it's a 4-engine, long-range Harrow body and jet airliner.
So specific.
Yeah, well, because I don't know what it is. I had to look it up.
No, I know.
Stacked these people around volcanoes and killed them with hydrogen bombs. And their spirit, as Leah Remini said in her 2020 episode, all those spirits came into people, and we are descended from aliens. Official Scientology scriptures hold that thetans of these aliens adhere to humans, causing spiritual harm. Within the church, the study of Xenu is part of the church's secret advanced technology, considered a sacred and esoteric teaching, which is normally only revealed to members who have completed a lengthy sequence of course.
And I think it's OT level 3, right? Where they first get to learn about it?
Yes.
Or operating thetan level, they call it. A
lengthy sequence of courses costing large amounts of money.
So to get to these levels...
not even Leah Remini got there.
No, we know she got to 3.
Well, yeah.
She did.
But the highest one you could is 8. And O2, that's operating thetan, okay? That's a spiritual state above being clear. By operating is meant to, quote, be able to act and handle things. And by thetan is meant to, quote, the spiritual being that is the basic self. And operating is one who can handle things without having to use a body of physical means.
So the whole bunch of jargon there that they wanted to throw out to make it sound fancy schmancy. Pretty much they're telling you that you stay dedicated to Scientology, eventually you'll be revealed all the secrets to life, and
the truth is revealed.
The truth at OT level 3 that they learn is that we're descendants from an alien Xenu and it's bizarre to me. It's so bizarre. This is what people find out. Yet everybody in Scientology, they don't know anything about this. And there's a reason why they don't use Google the way we use Google. They're not allowed to.
So Leah Remini got in trouble for that. Among other things, it was sent to rehab.
Yeah, once she started Googling things, because she was questioning the ethics of the church, she started reading heavy petting. Oh, that was
when she was like 14 and had a boyfriend, and he barely touched her boob, and she went to wrote a knowledge report, and she went to rehab and was
like most other religions, no sex before marriage in this religion. Not at all. But not just that, they say you're allowed to kiss, but there's no heavy petting, which I still find hilarious when they say heavy petting.
Right.
So for those of you that are heavily petting your boyfriends or girlfriends out there, okay, tone it down if you're going to be a Scientologist. No more petting each other.
What have you learned today? Right. Heavy petting, sex magic, Xenu, words.
Oh, sounds like you're really on track there. Huh?
Yep. All right.
Are we going to bring in?
Yeah. All right. Well, back by, I guess, popular demand, my dad is back with us today.
Some more commentary.
Hi there.
Hi.
How we doing?
How we doing?
Welcome back to Reality Check.
Thanks. Good to be back. Popular demand. Wow. Might have to tone that down a little bit. I'm not going to keep you guys on the phone tonight. I do want to say a couple of things. You were talking about e-meters a little bit ago, so I want to take you back to 1963. The FDA raided the offices of the Church of Scientology. They got hundreds of those e-meters, and they were being called illegal medical devices. And the FDA got all the literature that they accused of making false medical claims. The original suit, says here by the FDA, to condemn the literature and e-meters did not succeed. However, the court ordered the church to label every meter with a disclaimer that is purely religious artifact, and posted a $20,000 bond of compliance and to pay the FDA's legal expenses. So in regard to that particular part of the conversation, those are, if they're still being used, a religious artifact rather than a medical device.
Right.
Okay. So the second point that I want to make is, all the restrictions based on this, what you would call religion or what everybody I don't understand how you call that a religion, because you guys made a good point. The point is where every religion professes love and, love your neighbor, all that kind of thing. The first thing I would question is this really a religion?
Well, a religion, no. Okay,
According to them, yes. But
religion, the definition of religion is the belief in and worship of a superhuman controlling power, especially
Correct.
a personal god or goddess.
Correct. Okay. So having said that, there was a guy that teaches at Columbia University, and he gave a great description of Scientology. He calls it a movement that straddles the boundaries between psychology and religion.
right.
In other words, a graded hierarchy of auditing and training, which will ultimately release fully all the individual's inner potential. So does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, I mean,
Yes.
yeah, right. Well,
Okay.
we were
Okay.
discussing that a little earlier about what the true motives behind Scientology
Yeah.
are and how they draw people in.
And by the way, I want you to add one more name to the list of Scientologists that you guys missed. That would be Tom Selleck.
No, mustache guy.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Mustache
you
guy.
guys
From Friends.
Tom Selleck.
And by the way, so you know, at last
Mustache
count
guy.
in the United States only, there was only about 50,000 Scientologists.
This was back when?
And that's, I'm sorry,
This is where you said when were there 50,000 Scientologists?
currently.
Currently.
At the last census, which was about 2 years ago, so there may be more, but I don't think it's exceeded 100,000 yet.
Well, one of the things that she actually mentioned in the book also is that where they said in the Sea Org there's about 4,000 members, but there's about 20,000 altogether in the U.S. They claim that there's 10 million members worldwide, but that
there is.
but that includes anyone who's ever even bought one book, taken one course, or even entered a building. And she says the closer estimate of the amount of people actually practicing Scientology is 35,000. It's not a lot of people. They want you to believe it's millions and
So
millions
if
of
I went
people.
out and bought
Right.
a copy of L. Ron Hubbard's Dianetics, whether I read it or
Yeah.
not,
Then
I'm
congratulations.
I'm a
You're a
Scientologist.
and you're on their mailing list for the rest of your life.
I'm
You'll
on
be getting their mail.
I was so worried about that today or yesterday. Well, the last couple of days when I was doing my Scientology research, I was on Scientology.org and I'm like, man, I hope they're not tracking me down because I do not want this mail. Like
Yeah.
I have expected to
once
open my
you're-
mailbox and see all the Scientology spam.
Because once they got you, once you're on their mailing list, for the rest of your life, even if you have zero interest in even learning a damn
Yeah.
thing more about it, you will be on their mailing list for the rest of your life.
So again, I would get back to whether or not it's a religion. It's not something you convert to, so it doesn't require that the members must exclusively believe in Scientology, which would be distinguishing it from biblical religions. You can profess belief in other religions, such as, well, you can be a Catholic or a Protestant or whatever. You can participate in their activities and sacred rites. Now, I want to get back to Tom Cruise because ever since him and Katie Holmes were married, you know, she's from Toledo.
Right.
Her dad is a very prominent lawyer in Toledo still, has not retired yet. In any case,
Dad, we're
We're gonna
Ritual.
actually be getting into
we're
this.
trying to we're about to get into Tom Cruise and what happened at Tom Cruise's
Yes.
wedding and
We're
what's
gonna
going
wrap
on.
you up a little
Yeah,
bit.
sorry.
Yeah. So I think what they put her through could accurately be described as boot camp.
Okay. Speaking of boot camp, all right, because I actually have some stuff about their boot camp that I'm going to get
Yep.
into actually right now.
Okay.
So
Well, I don't want to get beyond what you guys have going on. I don't want to spring any surprises. I'm known for that, so I really don't want to do that to you guys.
But
But
we appreciate you calling in again.
yep.
Thank you,
you
Dad.
guys have a good night. I'm going to be listening to you guys get done.
all right, thank
as
you.
well. Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, so boot camp, real quick, before we get into
Go into boot camp,
before
Joyce.
we get
Go
into
ahead.
the god known as Tom Cruise, the Estates Project Force. It's like a boot camp. All the EPFers spent, which is another Scientology term. They spent 12 hours a day doing hard labor, like pulling up the roots with your bare hands.
Oh, that's the RPF, Rehabilitation Project Force.
Oh, sorry.
RPF.
Yeah, but it was, okay, but anyway, well, yeah. She talks about this a lot in the book, and she talked about it on the 2020 interview as well. But she'd be, like pulling up roots with your bare hands, working heavy machinery, or cleaning bathrooms in hotel rooms. And then for 2.5 hours each day, you sit through basic courses for the RPF, which you learn Sea Org policies and rules and what it was meant to be a member.
And RPF is where they're punished for, right?
Right.
So when you do something really, really bad, and she mentions that in the Sea Org, that she mentions that they almost put her in this. That was for that guy, for heavy petting with that guy, right? Back when she was a teen. They wanted to put her in the Rehabilitation Project Force. Now, this is one of the most excruciating forms of punishment that they put onto their members. If you mess up, basically, this is in Clearwater. They'll do this. You have to wear all black clothing. So those of you who know what it's like to be in the hot, excruciating humidity and sun in Florida, you have to wear all black. You have to do manual labor.
You have to run everywhere you go.
Everywhere. And you will be doing this for 7 days a week, 365 days a year, until they decide to let you out of it.
And you have to call everybody sir, because everybody higher up than you is considered to be L. Ron Hubbard. Doesn't matter if they're a man or a woman, you call them sir, because they're, to you, L. Ron Hubbard.
And you're not allowed to basically be treated like a person. They treat you like you're a nobody as long as you're in that program. It's sickening. It's terrible. But they make you feel awful so that you never, ever want to mess up again. Why people continue to stay in at this point, it baffles me. I don't know why. That's the bigger question.
Well, like with not only with the rehabilitation project force, they also have this thing called the Hole, where the Hole, it's on Gold Base, which is their international base, and it's a set of trailers on a remote 500 acre compound in Southern California, where fallen executives are kept separated, humiliated, and often beaten. They're subject to punishments like being made to lick the bathroom floor or being doused in cold water.
Yeah. This is all reinforced in their policies. They're not their first upfront policies, but in some of their more hidden policies, it is actually okay for them to abuse people physically, to hit people. Miscavige,
Shelley Miscavige is missing, and we think she's dead.
Well, we think her husband
killed her,
murdered her. Leah Remini talks about in the book that this was his wife, who used to be everywhere with him, everywhere with David Miscavige. He's the now head of Scientology. And all of a sudden, Tom Cruise's wedding to Katie Holmes, she's not there, out of nowhere. And that's the last time she was ever seen was, I think, a couple months earlier, and never seen again. This is 2006.
Right. And David Miscavige was seen like just flirting heavily with his assistant. And then after the wedding, Leah Remini wrote a knowledge report on Tom Cruise, wrote one on David Miscavige, and that was kind of like the beginning of the end. But let's talk about what happened at Tom and Katie's, quote, wedding of the century.
Yeah, this was really interesting. Now, Leah Remini was invited to the wedding, but the reason why they invited her was because they wanted her to bring
Jennifer Lopez,
who she's good friends with,
and Mark Anthony
at the time, who she was with at the time. And we're assuming to try to bring them into Scientology.
Right.
Even though, Jennifer Lopez is known to be Catholic.
I think her dad, somebody in her family was inside.
Maybe it's her dad.
Yeah,
I think
somebody in her family was. So they
Jennifer
thought,
Lopez's family, yeah.
Right. So, but the whole wedding, they were trying to separate her and Jennifer Lopez. And I'm not that big of a Jennifer Lopez fan, but after reading this, I was kind of like, that was kind of cool of her, because every time somebody from the church, one of the parishioners, would come up and try to separate her and Leah, like, they would travel together, and they'd make Leah try to fly on a separate airplane or ride in a separate car, and Jennifer Lopez was always like, no, she's with me. Sorry, no, she's with me. She's sitting at my table. So then Leah goes, they had her separated at a different table at the wedding. So Leah goes and asks to just move tables, and this is when all hell broke loose.
Yeah, they were trying to get Leah to sit at a table with non-Scientologists in order to promote Scientology to them, but she wanted to sit with her friend Jennifer Lopez, and Jennifer Lopez wanted her to sit with her too, because she was only there because Leah Remini brought her there.
Right.
But they keep trying to isolate them from one another, and it's really bizarre. And all the hypocritical things also going on during the wedding. For instance, one of the Sea Org members was drinking at the wedding, right?
Right.
But they're not allowed. There's a rule, not within 24 hours of being on course, as they call it, are you allowed to have drank. But because you're on course constantly, you can never really drink.
Right.
So to see a Sea Org member drinking, she said, was equivalent for us to see, for like Catholics or Christians to see a priest taking a shot of tequila.
Right.
Which would be relatively interesting on its own. On a side note, do that. I would be curious.
Yeah, I've seen
it would be interesting. Yeah, pouring the salt on his wrist, taking a shot of tequila. There you go.
Listen, I've seen my priest drinking beer after church on Sunday.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. But it's funny as...
I'm not kidding. True story.
No, I believe you. It's as funny as that would
Walking
seem.
his beagles.
In this religion, walking his beagles, drinking tequila, walking his beagles, for them to see someone doing this in Scientology they're supposed to be immediately, as they call it, knowledge reports, tattling on each other. She saw that. She saw the way they were treating the baby Siri.
Yes, okay.
Tom and Katie's baby Siri.
So Tom and Katie's baby, they had in another room and
laying on the ground,
screaming
and crying,
and they're like, "Be quiet, Siri. Be quiet, Siri. Be quiet." Like she understood. She's like 3 months old at this time. Like she's not going to understand that.
But at 3 months old, apparently she's as equal as all
an
adults.
adult.
So what was wrong with that baby for laying on the ground screaming and crying?
Right? How dare her ruin this wedding?
She should have known.
How
she should have known
dare
better.
her?
So there's 3 of them just standing there yelling at this little baby crying on the floor. I mean, I can't imagine that watching that happen wouldn't be disturbing. I mean, that's disturbing. I mean, it has a humorous element to it to think that these people really thought that would get through to it. But it's just bizarre that this is how they handle situations. I mean, these are human beings.
So then after she wrote, Leah Remini, after the wedding, writes a knowledge report on Tom Cruise,
Right.
writes a knowledge report on David Miscavige. Katie Holmes, in a twist of events, turns around and writes a knowledge report on Leah Remini.
A bunch of them
A
wrote
bunch
them
of
on
people
her.
wrote, but Katie Holmes being one of them. But then there's a thing where there's a rule that if the person that wrote a knowledge report on you becomes exiled from the church, then that knowledge report goes away. So Katie Holmes, when her and Tom Cruise got divorced, she was exiled from the church.
Right.
And that Leah Remini's knowledge report, she tried to get taken away, get withdrawn, and they wouldn't do it. Like they were,
Right.
I feel like they were against her from the get.
So they want everybody to pay for the mistakes they make by going through auditing sessions, but when the higher ups make a mistake, they don't have to pay for it.
Nope.
Which is what she explained in the book. And she is trying to, literally what Leah Remini was doing, because she was such a dedicated Scientologist, she was trying to fight for what Scientology believes in because she saw all the higher ups making these mistakes. And then one of the things she says here is that this is how it works in the church, those who write up top officials are usually intimidated into recanting, or they wind up being declared
A suppressive person.
And because of her writing up top officials, she in turn was audited for 12 hours a day for weeks until she just decided to break because she couldn't take it anymore. And they forced her, and then she ended up having to pay $300,000 to be reprogrammed because she was the one who did something wrong, even though clearly the top officials were messing around up there. But that's it. What is it? When you have the power, you get away with whatever you want. It's kind of the way most things work in this country and world.
Hey, did you know that Tom Cruise's favorite game is hide and seek?
I haven't heard that. Where did we hear that, Jess?
According to Leah Remini. Here's another.
Tom Cruise basically has people over at his house, at his mansion. Leah Remini, was it Jada Pinkett Smith, and a couple of other people. And he wants to play. This isn't even a joke. He wants them to play hide and seek with him. This is what, maybe 11 years ago?
Yeah. Well,
this is a grown man wants to play with a bunch of grown adults hide and seek in his house.
He the other thing too, the first time that they ever met, like Tom Cruise and Leah Remini met, he wanted Leah Remini to teach him how to salsa dance. So this is when she first met Katie Holmes, or found out that him and Katie Holmes were dating, and she said that they were like making out like big time, and she cracked a joke like, "All right, guys, get a room," and boom,
she's written up
knowledge
report.
and paying all this money.
You said something bad. You misbehaved. Now you have to pay probably another couple $1,000s.
So then
that's typical.
So then after the whole wedding debacle, after she finally cracked, she sent Tom Cruise and David Miscavige a letter saying, "I'm sorry I acted like an idiot at the wedding," and all this stuff. But in truth, like, she really didn't do anything.
Yep.
All she wanted to do was sit with her friend Jennifer Lopez.
She wanted to fight for and she wanted to fight for what Scientology believes in, and this is what leads her eventually to be isolated from the church because of all her questions and seeing the corruption and the sick and twisted things that are really going on. I mean, if the top officials are doing this, well, clearly there's something just not quite right about the religion, And that's what happens. And then eventually, because of, like Jess was saying, after Katie and Tom got divorced, Leah wants a refund of her $300,000 that she paid to be rehabilitated.
Nicole Kidman was also in the church too.
That's right. And she got away scratch-free. But then this is what the church does. When everybody tries to confront them about these things, they never actually approach what people ask them directly. It's called dead agenting. So they shut down any criticism by disproving the actual credibility of the source of information. So they sidestep questions by using ad hominem attacks. So if someone says, well, why does Scientology do this? They'll say something like, well, why do you beat your wife? Isn't that true? Or they'll say something random like that to try to take the focus off Scientology and discredit the source saying it. And that is not, that's how they avoid ever taking responsibility for their actions.
Well, they do on with 2020, when they found out Leah Remini was doing that 2020 interview, somebody from the church went over to the news station and sent them a package with all this stuff about Leah Remini, all these bad things about Leah Remini. But the funny thing is she had already written them in her book.
Yep.
So they couldn't say it about her. She said it about herself.
She took all their ammo away.
Yep.
And then she writes when she leaves, she writes a missing persons file on Shelley Miscavige, who, by the way, was never ever found to this day. There's no one that knows where her bats are.
Well, somebody said that they were, because I think somebody in the police department was a Scientologist and said that they had talked to her, even though she hadn't. So, you know what? We forgot to do our thank yous. So we'll do our thank yous real quick.
Yes. Thank you to all our supporters, of course.
Chio fam,
as well as our friends and family, or those who are remaining at Chio at this point. And thank you for all your continued support. We do appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Sparked a little bit of debate. Feel free to ever send us emails.
Catch us on Twitter, because I'm always on Twitter. I'm always on Facebook. You can find us then.
Jess is the tweeting goddess over here.
You can catch Joey Thursday through Sunday at Chio. You can catch me usually Saturday nights and Monday and Taco Tuesday. So come see us.
Thank you, folks, for joining us. We will talk to you next week.
Stand by. You've been listening to Reality Check, the one show that doesn't prepackage and spin the truth as propaganda.